Space whales? Nope, rather deal with devils. Chapter 65, Fan Fiction by Azazyel. Obviously, Kunou and Yasaka needed some time alone for themselves as Yasaka was dealing with the information about her coming pregnancy. Kunou wanted to spend more time with her mom. And I myself needed to head on back home to Kuoh, as I needed to get my group together and ready to leave Kuoh and establish my force between Kuoh and Kyoto, actually. Oh, and also, I still had to set up that meeting with Rias about becoming her own contracted magician with how Issei died, and I needed to get the details on the raiding game Sona had as well. So, with those factors set, I gave Kunou a big, tight hug, and I looked at Yasaka smiling as I said, "You have my phone number. I imagine you are going to be busy for the next couple of days and will be keeping Kunou close to you. But when I have the address for the mansion I am having built, you two are more than welcome to visit." Yasaka's eyes softened before she leaned in, and I felt her prodigious bosom push against my chest as she softly kissed the corner of my mouth before she gently placed her hand on my chest and gave me a small push as she said, "Good, now go on, Jake. And be careful, as you have made your name in this world in breaking through Genbu's shield with a single strike." I nodded in understanding, and I summoned up a Citri magical glyph and teleported away back to Kuoh and into the Devil Ran school with the wards welcoming me as per usual, as I teleported directly into my bedroom. But as I came out of my teleport, I blinked as I saw that Mommy and Mash were both wearing rather lewd sleeping dresses that exposed a lot of skin as they were watching a sappy romantic drama, it looked like. "Oh, welcome back, Master," Mash said excitedly, and I nodded with a wry smile as I asked, "So why are you ladies in my room?" I asked in curiosity. It wasn't like I was angry or anything, but without a moment of hesitation, Mommy answered shamelessly, "Your TV is bigger." And as I nodded in agreement to her fair point, she continued with the shameless bit, "And I want to lay down in your bed and smell your scent as we watch the movie." And now Mash flushed at Mommy's shameless words, but I just shook my head in amazement before I said, "All right, Mommy, you be good with Mash. I need to go check in with Sona and Rias Gremory, the other king of this territory, before I can chill out." We three shared a few words before I left my room, and I idly threw a look at the room the quintuplets had, but remembered that with it only being the late afternoon, they were still likely asleep and hadn't gotten up yet. So I just made my way out of the apartment section of the school for Sona's peerage, and as I was making my way over there, I sent her a quick text that I was on my way. Once I got to her door, I gave it a quick knock, with she audibly calling me in. And once I came in, I greeted the two occupants fairly. "Sona, Tsubaki." And Tsubaki nodded towards me in respect as she said calmly, I saw the fight between Lady Yasaka and Genbu on Devil Tube. Your name as Sona's sole contracted magician is making some waves in the underworld." I raised an eyebrow at Sona, whose face twitched into a smug, proud smile before she barely managed to repress it as she spoke almost nonchalantly. "Indeed, I have received a number of requests to trade you to other people to join their peerage, a chance to introduce themselves so they could coerce you into becoming their own contracted magician, among other things." A wolf whistle escaped me while Sona preened at having managed to gain my allegiance and help for the coming future, to say nothing of the soul bond we shared now. I waved a hand to magically pull one of the chairs in front of me to sit into as I folded my arms over my chest and spoke more seriously. "Will this fame of mine affect your raiding game with that younger heir? I can't remember his name, I had to jump worlds, and I've been gone for a full week at this point. What was his name again?" Sona gave a slight hum before she shivered for some reason and said, "Greg Fornius, the heir of the Fornius clan. And no, it will not be changing anything as the date of the raiding game has already been set in stone for this coming weekend on Saturday. However, there are two things we must discuss." Which this being Tuesday that meant I had a good few days to be ready. Sona took a breath and then said with a slight frown, "First of all, Jake, did you get blessed by one of the Shinto gods as I can feel a divine blessing on you?" I shook my head with a wry smile crossing my face as I replied honestly, "No, I needed to rush to another world for an issue I ran into while on my mission, and while I was there, I got blessed by one of the gods of that world." Although I could see that Sona and Tsubaki were curious about the world, I could also see the reminder that I had been to a magical girl world before. And the thought of myself going to another made Sona look visibly ill, so she buried the thought as she moved the conversation onwards. I see. Now then, on to the other topic. Yes, Rias is very eager to speak with you, about you perhaps becoming a contracted magician of hers. Though I will be retaining priority should our peerages have to meet in a rating game or the like. Sona said as she leaned back in her chair, and I raised an eyebrow at the way she said it without any emotion. Is there an issue with that, Sona? Like, is Serafal going to have an issue if I do that? I asked as I knew Serafal had been busy in the underworld doing her work as the Devil's head of foreign diplomacy. And busy getting her magical girl situated in her peerage. But Sona frowned before she said slowly. No. But Jake, you got to understand that with the way you all but crippled a defensive type ultimate class being with a couple swings of a conjured ice blade. You have some political weight behind whoever you attach yourself to. And some groups wouldn't want you attached to Rias Gremory in particular. And then it hit me. I had already talked with Sona about Rias's arranged marriage, and we had both whined and groaned about how Rias hadn't been training her peerage into the dirt. But then again, Rias was supposed to literally have more than 5 more years to get ready for the marriage. With how the marriage was set to happen after she finished college in the human world. This meant that with this last school year, she had combined at least 4 years of schooling in a human Earth college. That meant at least 5 years left. So plenty of time for her to naturally grow more powerful with some occasional training thrown in. The Phoenixes, huh? I mused before giving out a wry smile as they were literally the worst possible matchup for me with my holy water blessing from Aqua, along with my mystic eyes of death perception. But as I was wondering about the repercussions of getting involved in this and weighing the pros and cons like Akino's tits and Surzeka's appreciation in the pro section, Sona took out a fancy gold letter that had rubies embossed onto the actual gold envelope with a large gold and ruby wax stamp in the middle that bore the emblem of a phoenix. The heraldry of the Phoenix clan? I muttered, looking at the envelope in confusion, before Sona took a deep breath and said. Jake, the Phoenix clan traded 500 vials of Phoenix tears, that can save thousands of wounded devils if properly rationed to the Citri hospitals, with one requirement. You alone get this letter. Sona said with clear annoyance in her eyes, and I realized she wasn't happy with the Phoenix clan's ham-fisted attempt at whatever that letter wanted.